Warm beaches, enticing blue waters, lush forests, a pond, an underwater rainbow of incredible coral reefs and exotic marine life. With an enchanting blend of natural beauty and rich cultures, it is one of North America's most visited tourist destinations with over 28.7 million tourists in 2015. Home to some of the most beautiful sights, exotic animals, and natural greenery. Most people call this region paradise, but all is not well in this paradise.
My name is Jimmy Proton, and today we will be going into in-depth research about how climate change has and will affect the Caribbean. Our staff sat down to have an interview with 3 experts in their own respective fields about the topic of climate change.
So let's start at the beginning. What is climate change?
Climate change is when there's a change in the climate because of the greenhouse gases in the ozone layer. Light from the sun hits the earth and reflects back to space, but there is some light that gets absorbed by greenhouse gases. When there's a lot of gas in the ozone layer, the earth gets warmer and causes global warming and climate change.
Due to these greenhouse
Gases, the Earth's global temperature is beginning to rise, causing major discrepancies in many areas of the world, including the Caribbean. Although the Caribbean is one of the places that are being affected the most, the region is still emitting carbon dioxide.
So, what industry causes the most greenhouse gas emissions in the Caribbean?
The primary industry of the Caribbean islands is tourism, with 14.8% of the GDP in the CARICOM coming from this industry. It is estimated that 5% of global CO2 emissions come from tourism. This is due to the transportation of tourists and accommodating them in a comfortable environment. Just air travel accounts for 40% of CO2 emissions in this category, and air travel is the way that all of the tourists get to the Caribbean. So that is one of the main ways that it contributes to climate change.
So, what are some of the ways that Caribbean contributes to climate change?
Another main sector in the Caribbean is agriculture, which contributes to 10 to 12% of anthropogenic climate change, and it is usually exported to the United States of America. Some of the islands, including Jamaica, also have a lot of livestock, which is a big contributor to methane in the ozone layer. The Caribbean doesn't consume a lot of energy compared to other countries, but there is still some consumption of fossil fuels for electricity.
Now, we will be talking to our climatologist, Ms. Esizabeth Thapa. What effects does climate change have on tourism and the economy?
Due to climate change, many outbursts of diseases are occurring, and not many vaccines are available to prevent these diseases from spreading. This developed a fear within people to travel to the Caribbean, which in turn is lowering the GDP since the tourism sector accounts for 14.7% of it. Climate change can also cost the region US dollar 10.7 billion by 2025.
So, how does climate change affect the land?
Climate change is a serious problem for the Caribbean as it can threaten their entire way of life. Many of the effects of climate change that they are facing, excessive floods and droughts, major precipitation events, increase in natural disasters, and rising sea levels. We can see that climate change is evident in the Caribbean as floods that would occur every 1 in 100 years are now occurring every 10 to 20 years. Monsoon season has been getting shorter and droughts have now started to become longer. Due to the melting of the Arctic ice, it is causing the sea level to rise in the Caribbean, causing major economic sector of tourism to be endangered. Also due to higher sea level, the people in the Caribbean are facing bigger, more powerful storm surges. Countries such as Jamaica are being hit by a storm or hurricane every 3.8 years now, when it used to be 9.4 years. Through all these examples, we can conclude that global warming will have some serious effects to the Caribbean in the near future.
Now, we will be talking to our biologist, Ms. Varsha Vijayradha. So, what are potential health effects of climate change in the Caribbean?
There are many potential health effects of climate change. This includes great heat stress for vulnerable populations such as the elderly, worse sanitation conditions from limited water supplies or contaminated water from floods. There are also diseases such as malaria, diarrhea, and chikungunya that are becoming a greater threat in places like the Caribbean. Zika and chikungunya viruses are both mainly transmitted and spread by the bite of a female mosquito. Recently, there was a Zika virus outburst, and even though the virus was first existed in Uganda in 1947, it was not paid much attention to, and it was not as big of a threat until the outbreak in 2015. This is believed to be because climate change has created favorable environment conditions for the mosquitoes that transmit the virus. The weather patterns have changed since 1947. The temperature has increased and more rain has fallen. This caused diseases such as chikungunya virus to come to Caribbean for the first time in December 2013. These changes in weather is believed to be why it led the virus to places like the Caribbean. The Caribbean Public Health Agency and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States are both health initiatives that are working together to strengthen existing initiatives and make the public to take action to eliminate mosquito breeding sites.
How has climate change affected the animals and plant life in the Caribbean?
Well, climate change has not only affected the health life of us, but it has also affected the health of coral reefs, fish, and marine organisms. Climate change has caused the temperature and acidity to increase, causing a greater threat to health and survival of coral reef ecosystems. Seawater reacting with the higher levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere produces carbonic acid. The oceans have indeed become more acidic in the fact that oceans' acidity has increased almost 30% since the Industrial Revolution. And since the Caribbean depends on tourism, the degraded reefs have caused income losses, which are estimated to be several $100 million each year.
What are some of the ways that the Caribbean can reduce greenhouse gas emissions?
It would be great to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the tourism sector because it is one of the main industries in the Caribbean. But the problem is that there needs to be a specific climate change initiative that allows the area to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but at the same time make sure that there is no impact to the Caribbean's economy. One of the things that could be done to reduce emissions for air travel is instead of using kerosene fuel, they could use solar panels, batteries, biofuels, or hydrogen to power the planes. To reduce transportation within the islands, they could use hybrid vehicles, which would be more environmentally friendly. To help reduce emissions from agriculture, there could be less fertilizer used. Also, to reduce emissions from electricity, they could use greener fuels like solar or wind power.
So there you have it. As you heard from our experts, climate change has affected many things in the Caribbean, including tourism, economy, health, land, and the rise of greenhouse gas emissions. But there are also possible solutions that can be implemented in the Caribbean to help reduce climate change, which means things can be turned around. Now it's up to us to implement these solutions and make the Caribbean a true paradise once again.